First story. My disabled son finally died. So I bought my dream car with his insurance money. And I forced my other son to pay for cremation. My wife acted like I pissed on her son's grave, divorced me, stole everything in the divorce, and got me fired from my job, and all my kids disowned me. We've been married 21 years. I'm 41 now, the same age as my wife. We had several kids, and one of them, our third, was born with a serious genetic disorder. Not inherited from either of us, it was just random, some fluke mutation, the doctors said. Total freak accident. He was disabled in every way, couldn't walk or talk properly, had seizures, and needed feeding tubes and breathing support. You name it. He was sweet and had a laugh that lit up the house. But his care was intense. We're talking hospital-grade care 24/7s. From early on, my wife became the main carer. That wasn't some conspiracy or manipulation. It's just how it happened. I worked. I had to. Someone had to keep the lights on. My back was already shot by the time I was 35. I've got degenerative disc issues. I've had cortisone shots, PT, and even one surgery that didn't do much. She always waved that off like I was exaggerating. But I was in constant pain, and when you've got to choose between making money or being physically broken from trying to lift a full-grown kid with zero mobility, you do what you can. I couldn't be everywhere. But she started building this narrative over the years. That I checked out. That I left her to do everything. She overlooks all the nights I stayed up with our other kids while she was at the hospital. Or how I took care of the groceries, cleaned the garage, mowed the lawn, and cooked dinners when she was too exhausted to stand. Just because I wasn't giving meds through a tube or lifting our son from bed to wheelchair doesn't mean I didn't contribute. She decided that unless I suffered in exactly the way she did, it didn't count. We even had a nurse come in a few times a week, not nearly enough, but better than nothing. I offered to increase the hours if we could afford it. She said no. She said she didn't want strangers around our son too much. But then she'd turn around and complain that she was exhausted. So which is it? There were times when I really did try to be more involved. I'd try to change him or feed him. But she'd hover, critiquing every little thing. Don't touch that like that. You didn't clamp this right. You're too slow. He's uncomfortable now. Eventually, I just stopped trying to help with the hands-on stuff because it felt like no matter what I did, I was doing it wrong. So I stayed in my lane. I worked. I managed the bills. I made sure our other kids had normal lives. That doesn't make me a monster. And yeah, I admit, I shut down emotionally after a while. I started sleeping in the living room most nights. Not out of cruelty, I just couldn't deal. The crying, the machines, the alarms going off. It was like living in a damn ICU. No privacy, no rest. Every time we had a brief lull in chaos, she'd be talking about more treatments, more therapies, more plans. I couldn't keep up. I started resenting how everything became about him. Even when the other kids had school plays or games, she'd miss them. It always had to be her with our son. And I had to pick up the slack with the others. One time, a few years before he passed, we got into a huge blowout fight. She was pissed. I didn't help her lift him into the bath. I said my back was locking up again. She started screaming, actually screaming that I didn't love him, that I was a coward, that if I loved my son, I'd find a way to help no matter what. I lost it. I told her maybe if she didn't treat every single thing like a martyr mission, she wouldn't be so burnt out. I said, "You're not the only one in this house who's tired." She didn't speak to me for 2 days after that. We never really recovered. That was the turning point, honestly. She made the care of our son her whole identity. And I became the villain in her story because I wasn't willing to be broken alongside her. But someone had to stay on their feet. Our son lived 15 years. By the end, he was on 6 seizure medications, hooked up to multiple machines every day. We knew it was coming. There were signs. The doctors told us. She was with him when he died in her arms, peacefully, in the hospital. I wasn't there. I know that makes me look worse. But I had stayed home with the other kids. Someone had to. And yes, an hour after he died, I brought up the life insurance money. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. Cold? Maybe. But I was in shock. I'd been holding in so much for so long. I needed to focus on something. Something tangible. Something that made sense. The policy was through my job, under my name. It was a modest amount, not millions or anything. Just enough that I thought we could use it to finally do something that wasn't about hospitals or meds or grief. I mentioned wanting to buy a 4-wheeler. I'd had my eye on one for years. Not out of some selfish impulse, but because I wanted something real. Something for me, for us, for the kids to enjoy. A way to feel normal again. I knew she wouldn't like it, but I figured it was worth a shot. I didn't expect the explosion that followed. She acted like I wanted to piss on his grave. Like the money was sacred. She said we should put it into house repairs. But here's the thing. We've been putting money into the house for 15 years. It's always something: roof, plumbing, new mattress, whatever. I wanted something that wasn't utilitarian. Something that wasn't a reminder of death and caregiving and sorrow. Yeah, I went ahead and spent it. Because if I didn't act fast, it would be swallowed up by needs again. And I'm sick of living like that. She says I knew she didn't want that, and maybe I did. But she didn't exactly fight me on it beforehand. She wasn't clear. She didn't scream no when I mentioned it. She just went quiet. That's not the same as forbidding something. And now she's telling everyone I blindsided her, that I robbed her. Even my own family's turning on me. They say I should have consulted her. That's rich, coming from people who weren't there every day. And that wasn't even the end of it. The worst part, according to her, was that I tricked our oldest son into paying for the cremation. Which is total BS. I didn't trick anyone. I told him what needed to be done, and he offered. Yes, the life insurance hadn't cleared yet. Yes, I was preoccupied. But that was a practical decision. She paid him back later, sure. But she made this whole betrayal like I conned our own child. She hasn't forgiven me. Won't even look at me some days. She says she's trapped financially because she stayed home all these years like I forced her. Like we didn't agree on that together back when we had our first kid. And now she's telling friends, family, and whoever will listen that I'm some kind of heartless bastard who never cared. But nobody asks what I needed, what I went through. I get it. She carried more of the physical load. But I was there too in my own way. I was surviving. I made decisions. Maybe not the ones she wanted. But I did what I thought made sense. I didn't buy that four-wheeler to party or escape. I bought it because it gave me something to hold on to. A distraction, maybe. But more than that, it was the first decision I made in years that wasn't about meds, wheelchairs, insurance approvals, hospital beds, or diapers. And yeah, I wrote it. I took the other kids out on it too. It gave us moments where we weren't just the family with a disabled kid. She says that makes it worse, like I used his death as a reason to celebrate. That's not what it was. It was breathing room. She claims I knew she didn't want that. That I deliberately disrespected her. But if I'm being honest, I stopped caring about her opinions a long time ago. Not because I hate her, but because she made it clear a long time ago that I was the backup, the outsider, the disappointment. Everything revolved around our son. The rest of us adapted around her and him. I couldn't remember the last time we had a real conversation that wasn't about caregiving. She also told her whole side to my family. And now they're on her team. Her words, even his family sees how awful he acted. Like that proves something. My sister told me I was cold for not helping carry him at the funeral home. Again, my back is screwed. I physically couldn't. But that doesn't matter to them. What matters is the optics. What they saw. And what they didn't see is all the nights I sat up alone in silence wondering if this would be the day he stopped breathing. Nobody asks what it's like to live in a house that never sleeps, never rests. Where every beep or cough might be a code red. Where you stop being a person and become a background object just there to keep the fridge stocked and the driveway shoveled. For 15 years, I played that role. And the one time I stepped out of line, spent money on something that made me feel alive, I got labeled the villain. She brings up how she had to crawl sometimes to take care of him. I don't doubt that. I don't dismiss it. But I had my own injuries too. She doesn't talk about the year I threw out my back so badly I had to lie on the floor for 3 days straight and still dragged myself to work after. Or the panic attacks I kept quiet so she wouldn't add his mental health to her list of burdens. She's right about one thing: she couldn't divorce me. And I knew it. Not in a manipulative way, but it was just reality. No work history, no income, no backup plan. She was locked into this. And maybe that's why the resentment built so hard. She couldn't leave, so I became the enemy she was stuck with. But what would have changed if I had stayed home? If I had injured myself trying to lift our son, and then we had no income? People forget that part. That this isn't a movie. Someone had to fund everything: his meds, the house, the other kids. I did that. Maybe not with my hands on the wheelchair every day, but with every paycheck that kept the machines running. But nobody cares about that. Not now. I'm not saying I was a perfect father or husband. I'm saying I was there. In the way I could be. She thinks the only valid version of being there is suffering next to her, mirroring her pain exactly. That's never going to happen. We are different people. I don't grieve like her. I don't cry like her. I don't express love like her. But that doesn't make me heartless. And now I live in silence. The house is cold. She barely talks to me unless it's about the other kids. She walks around like I'm a ghost. When I told her I was thinking of trading the four-wheeler for a camper so I could take the kids on trips next summer, she just looked at me like I'd murdered someone, said, "You never stop, do you?" I don't know what that means. Am I supposed to sit in the house forever as some punishment? Wear grief like a uniform. I refuse. And for the record, I didn't trick our son into paying for the cremation. He offered. I told him I didn't have the funds immediately, and he said he'd handle it. She found out and flipped. Paid him back right away and made it into another point on her scoreboard of reasons I'm a failure. I just saw it as family helping family. She saw it as betrayal. She talks like everything I've done is unforgivable. That there's no coming back. I don't know. Maybe she's right. But I'm tired of everyone acting like I'm some cold-blooded monster because I didn't collapse into a puddle when our son died. Because I made a purchase. Because I moved. That four-wheeler wasn't a joyride. It was a lifeline. A reminder of motion. Of something outside the noise. I can still see him the way he used to smile when the wind hit his face in the van. Or when I took him for walks in his chair, and we hit a bump, and he'd laugh like it was a roller coaster. He would have loved that four-wheeler. So tell me, why is that wrong? Why does everyone act like I'm dead inside for needing one thing that wasn't about feeding tubes or seizures? I lost a son too. Just because I didn't show it their way doesn't mean I didn't bleed. Comments. Comment 1. Jesus effing Christ, man. I rarely say this, but you sound like a straight-up sociopath. You resented your wife for being a full-time carer to your disabled son because she wasn't giving you enough attention. She was crawling on the goddamn floor to take care of your child while you sat there with your back pain and acted like you were the one being victimized. And then the kid dies and you're out here playing effing four-wheeler Fantasyland like it's some tribute. Get a grip. You weren't a husband, and you sure as hell weren't a father. You were dead weight. Comment 2. Your wife's life ended when your son was born. And instead of standing beside her, you made sure yours didn't change too much. You didn't lift him. You didn't learn the meds. You didn't even show up when he died. Your biggest worry was that you couldn't go joyriding until the check cleared. And let's be real, you knew exactly what you were doing with that insurance money. You wanted something for you for once, even if it meant spitting in your wife's face. And now you're shocked everyone sees you for what you are. Pathetic. Comment 3. You know what stands out to me as a nurse? You keep saying hospital-level care, but didn't bother to learn how to do any of it. Your wife trained, lifted, gave meds, and stayed up all night. You had a choice. She didn't. That's the damn difference. She didn't just lose a son. She lost her health, her marriage, her financial freedom, and her entire identity. And when she asked for the bare minimum help, support, partnership, you checked out. You should be grateful she even stayed married to you at all. You're not misunderstood. You're a coward. Update. I posted a while ago about how my wife was furious with me for spending our late son's life insurance money on a four-wheeler, and how she said I never helped with our son's care. The comments I got. Brutal. Not just judgmental, pure hatred. People called me a coward, a narcissist, and even a sociopath. I was accused of abandoning my child, manipulating my wife, and using grief as a free pass to be selfish. So let me explain myself a little more. I'm not some cold-hearted bastard who saw his son die and went shopping. That four-wheeler wasn't a toy, it was an anchor. It was something that made me feel like I hadn't died inside. Everyone talks about my wife's suffering, and yeah, I saw it. I'm not blind, but nobody wants to admit that watching your child fade away over 15 years does something to both parents. Just because I didn't cry the loudest doesn't mean I didn't hurt. Just because I worked instead of doing tube feedings doesn't mean I didn't carry a load. My wife did most of the direct caregiving. That's true. But it was a joint decision. Early on, we sat down and agreed. I'd work full-time so we could survive financially, and she'd handle the day-to-day care. That wasn't me dumping it all on her, that was survival. She had no issue with it until much later, when resentment started to build. And by then, we were so deep in the routine that there was no going back. And for the record, I didn't spend all the money instantly. I used some of it. I didn't blow it on drugs or a Vegas trip. I bought something physical, useful, and something I thought would help all of us get through the grief. It wasn't meant to be disrespectful. It was my way of staying sane. But since I posted, everything's gone downhill. My wife moved out. At first, I didn't believe she actually would. She packed up and took 2 of the kids with her, including our adult son. I begged her not to leave. Literally. I stood in the driveway, begging. She didn't even look back. She moved in with her sister 2 towns over. Told me she needed space. She said she couldn't breathe around me. That hit me harder than I thought it would. I've been sleeping alone, eating alone. I haven't heard a full sentence from my kids in a week that wasn't cold or clipped. My youngest daughter asked if she could stay at her cousin's house, because it's less depressing there. I'm trying not to lose it. And the worst part, my wife got a job as a private care aide for a disabled child. The same kind of work she did for our son, only now she's getting paid for it. She even used her experience with our son to get hired. When I found out, I was furious. I asked her why she needed to do that when I still work full-time and cover everything. Her words? Because I want to feel useful again. What does that even mean? Was everything I did not useful? She's using her caregiving as leverage now. Telling people that she gave everything to our son, that it trained her for this. Meanwhile, I'm out here getting judged for not doing the same level of care. Apparently now you're only a good parent if you destroy your body and mind for 15 years straight. If you try to survive any other way, you're selfish. Then last week, I found out she and our kids went on a vacation. I wasn't invited. Wasn't even told. They went out of state and stayed by a lake and posted pictures. Laughing, smiling, having drinks. I confronted my son. Asked how they could do that so soon after losing his brother. He just said, "We needed it." So let me get this straight. She can take a trip. She can reclaim her identity. She can spend money on gas, a hotel, food, and time off work. And that's healing. But I spend insurance money from a policy under my name on something that helps me not spiral. And that's heartless. I'm the monster, but they're on a joyride. And the family her side and mine have all turned their backs. Her sister told me I had no soul. My brother told me I should start praying for forgiveness. Everyone acts like she's some saint who carried the world. And I was just standing in the corner, flipping her off the whole time. It's not true. I worked. I kept us afloat. I gave up things too, just not in a way people can post pictures of. Even worse, someone at my job found out about my situation. I guess someone from my family emailed them. And now it's going around quietly. People have been treating me differently, I can feel it. Meetings are awkward. A couple of guys have stopped inviting me out for lunch. One coworker said, "Heard about your new ride," with a smirk. That SHT spreads fast. And nobody hears the full story, just, guy buys toy with kids' death money. So now what? My wife's gone. My son won't speak to me unless I initiate. The other kids barely tolerate me. There's no peace in the house, just silence and tension. I sit alone every night and think about how everything crumbled in a matter of months. I'm still working, still paying bills, still trying to keep this house standing. And for what? They're not here anymore. I want to fix it. I just don't know how. I don't even know if she'll come back. And if she does, what am I supposed to do? Burn the four-wheeler and beg? Apologize for working? Pretend like I was a better father than I was? Would that even be honest? I don't want more people calling me heartless. I've read enough of those comments. I want actual advice. What do I do now? How do I get my wife back, or at least stop being the bad guy in everyone's mind? How do I rebuild with my kids? I know I wasn't perfect, but I was there, even if people refuse to see it. And now I'm falling apart a little more every day. What the hell do I do now? Update. She filed for divorce. Didn't say it. Didn't warn me. Just served me papers through a process server while I was home alone. After 21 years together, it ended with a knock on the door and an envelope. Her name at the top, mine underneath, and page after page of legal demands. I tried to call. No answer. Texted. Nothing. She had already lawyered up. I begged her through email to at least sit down and work out the finances without court. Told her we could split things clean, make it easier on the kids, and save the money on lawyers. She never responded. Her lawyer did. A week later. All communication will go through counsel. That was it. She cut me off like I was a stranger. And then came the demands. Full share of the house. Half my retirement. Spousal support. Even though I'm unemployed now. My job turned hostile fast after someone shared my original post at work. It spread in whispers. I could feel it. No one said it to my face, but the vibe shifted. Meetings where no one looked at me. Projects quietly reassigned. HR check-ins that were obviously about setting a paper trail. The final straw came when I was told my position was being eliminated. They packaged it as restructuring, but it was personal. They didn't want the guy who blew his kids' life insurance money and went viral for it sitting in the office anymore, and they made sure there was no room to argue. So now I'm jobless, divorced, and fighting in court over every asset I ever worked for. She got her lawyer to block my access to the house, unless she was there. That meant no privacy to even gather my own stuff without judgmental eyes watching. Eventually, we had to settle. I couldn't afford her share. She didn't want to stay in the house, so we sold it. It's gone now. The house I raised my kids in. The only place I knew for 2 decades. Sold to a couple with no idea how much pain and history sits in those walls. We split the proceeds down the middle, but it didn't feel like a win. It felt like erasure. I live in a small rented duplex now. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. No yard. No noise. Just walls and quiet. I sold my car, the same one everyone mocked me for buying. I sold it cheap, too. Couldn't afford to keep it and still make rent. And honestly, I couldn't look at it anymore. What was once my way of coping had become a symbol of everything that blew up afterwards. My oldest son told me I should have sold it years ago. I told him he could have talked to me like a son once in a while. He hung up. None of my kids talk to me anymore. That's not an exaggeration. They've essentially disowned me. I tried reaching out during the holidays. No response. Tried showing up at my daughter's birthday party. My name wasn't even on the guest list. My sister told me I was causing a scene and asked me to leave. That was the last straw. I walked out and didn't say a word. Nobody followed. People say blood is thicker than water. That's bullshit. The second the narrative shifted when their mum painted me as the guy who checked out, who never cared, who blew through money and acted like a victim they chose her. Maybe they already had, and I just didn't see it. Even extended family treats me like I'm radioactive. My own brother won't return calls. Says it's too awkward since he's still in touch with my ex. Her sister blocked me. Her cousins deleted me off socials. And every now and then, I still get messages from strangers, people who dug up my old post reminding me that I'm what's wrong with fathers today, or calling me insurance fraud with legs. I didn't fake anything. I didn't steal anything. I made a bad call, but it was mine to make. Still, that's how I'll be remembered. So yeah, if you're one of the people who hated me back then, congrats. I lost everything. I sit in this empty rental every night, staring at blank walls. No photos. No family. Just silence. I apply for jobs every day. Nothing sticks. Most want references. Good luck with that when everyone you've ever known has turned their back. I'm barely scraping by. I eat whatever's cheapest. I've lost weight not intentionally. Sleep is hit or miss. Most nights I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how it all got here. I used to think I was doing the best I could. I still think that sometimes. But now I wonder if maybe the best I could was never enough for the people who mattered. Maybe it was never even close. And I know people will say, well, now you understand what your wife went through. No, I don't. I never will. I didn't carry that physical burden like she did. But I carried other things. And now I carry this, the fallout. Alone. I don't post this for pity. I don't expect sympathy. I know most of you won't give a damn. Hell, some of you will probably smile reading this. And maybe I deserve that. I don't know anymore. But I had to say it somewhere. Just to put it somewhere outside my own head. She's gone. The kids are gone. The house is gone. The job is gone. The car is gone. And me? I'm still here. But I don't know for how long. Second story. My friend of 10 years demanded I date him because he is better than my boyfriend, rich with his parents' money and good looking, so I told him he is spoiled, immature, and exhausting to be around. Then he tried to grab me, so my boyfriend beat the crap out of my friend. So my 21-year-old friend of 10 years, Mark, not his real name, 23M, called me yesterday to meet him for lunch and said that he had something important to discuss with me. I had free time, so I agreed. I met him already there and joined him. We had lunch, and then we talked a bit about random things. Then he cleared his throat and started speaking. He first told me that he didn't understand why I was dating my now boyfriend when he's a better match for me. I asked him to explain, and he basically went on about how he liked me first. He met me first. He's more good looking. He knows me better. He's taller than my boyfriend, and he's more successful, which is not true in a way. My BF works aside from growing up in wealth, while Mark's entire life is funded by his parents' money law. He told me he doesn't understand how I can be with him when he's always been around waiting for me. I was out of words and asked him if he wanted me to be honest. To which he said yes. I told him that I would never want to date him given how I've seen the way he treated his past girlfriends. He ghosts them when he feels like it and just expects them to be there waiting. I told him he's too immature and irresponsible for me, and that dating him would be exhausting. I also explained that the reasons I mentioned were why, over time, I started putting a distance between us in our friendship, because I didn't like the way he treated the women in his life. When I was done, he was just quiet. He just excused himself and left. I went home and went about my day. Later in the evening, our other friends started asking what I did to Mark, and said that he's been a wreck since he met me for lunch. He's drinking and not telling anyone what happened. I explained to them what happened, and they are saying I was harsh, and that I broke him, blah blah blah. But I think someone had to tell him the truth. So Reddit fam, AmITheA? Edit 1. I know everyone says this, but whoa. I didn't think this post would blow up so much. I'm trying to get through the comments and answer some questions that are there. Was sort of occupied the whole day, so I just opened Reddit. Thank you all for the comments, honestly. Edit 2. I'm so overwhelmed by the comments. In a good way, most are really funny. I've been laughing so much I woke my sister's baby. I've sent my post to my friend, not associated with Mark, and our group chat is blowing up with more laughter. But in all seriousness, I'm thankful for the great comments and people giving advice on my safety. I'll definitely be more aware of my surroundings going forward. I don't know Mark as a violent person, but then again, this incident has proved that I may not know him like I think I do. Mark is currently blocked from everything. Our mutual friends who were supporting him and calling me out are also blocked. And this is also a learning lesson for me, to distance myself a lot more quickly next time I see red flags in future friendships. Thank you again, Reddit fam. If anything happens, I'll update you all. And I'll still be reading the comments and answering what I can. Edit 3. I have an update, but I'm not sure if I should put it below here since this post has gotten quite long. So I'll just make a new post for those who are still interested in this post. AITA has no consensus bot. OP was NTA. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Even if you had kind of liked him, I feel like declaring his feelings by being rude about your current partner is such a turnoff. He doesn't say anything meaningful or romantic about you, just that he thinks he's better than your actual BF, so you should dare him instead. So entitled. Commenter 2. And all his bragging about himself is superficial, shallow stuff. OP is right. He's too immature and self-centered. It sounds like he's never had to earn anything for himself. How did he think this would go? She would say, "Gee, you're right. How could I be so foolish?" Then he could tell her she still had to earn his love. Black. Just gross. OP. He's the typical rich boy who thinks we should all bow down to him. But if we were to remove his parents' money, then he'd have nothing to his name. Commenter 3. Why doesn't she like me? I'm literally the most perfect guy. I'm a really nice person. You're a bad person. Q. A narcissistic existential crisis that has nothing to do with you, but you will be blamed for. OP. Very narcissistic. He makes everything about him and always wants to one-up his friends. I'm definitely dropping him and the people supporting him. Commenter 4. I find it disgusting that she thought she had a friend, while he was just waiting. Lying in wait. More like. Commenter 5. It's the waiting part that's a huge red flag. If I even thought I developed feelings for a friend, I would let them know to get ahead of it and see how they felt. But waiting 10 years and pulling the "I knew you first," that makes you sound like a possession, not a person he wants to grow with. Not to mention the fact you have a BF, and he waits until then to tell you. Seriously, I think people think Hallmark Christmas rom-coms are documentaries. Commenter 6. Yep. He friend-zoned her, then gaslighted her into thinking he was a friend. Commenter 7. Yes, this is a huge detail right here. OP's gonna realize that he was never her friend, and that he was just being nice because he wanted to be with her. Once you realize that as a woman, your whole perspective changes as you question all the male friends you've ever had. OP's amazing for how she straight up told her friend, lol. OP. I've honestly been thinking about our entire friendship. We went to the same primary school. That's how we have mutual friends and all. All this time I thought I had a great friend until I started noticing his relationships. And this just solidified my decision to leave our friend group. Update. I told my guy friend why I don't want to date him. Our friends are saying I broke him. Update. Hello Reddit family. I don't know if anyone will find this, but I did get a lot of comments and a lot of great suggestions and help on my first post. So I feel like I owe you an update lol. So a couple of things have happened since then. After some people mentioned things about my safety, I took it to heart and told my sister and her husband I live with them for now the issue. Of course, it was also just in case my ex-friends were to stop by the house, since they would do that sometimes. Since there's a baby at our house, my sister's baby, they thought having cameras was not a bad idea for everyone's safety. And I told my BF as well, since some of you were worried about his safety too. He's a fit guy and has security at his house, so he'll be all right. On Friday, I went to a birthday party with my BF for one of his friends, and everything was going well until I saw one of Mark's sidekicks. Let's call him Ben. I pass him without saying anything, and he just looks at me. I notify my BF that he's there, and we decide to not let him bother us. An hour later, I saw him, Mark, talking to the birthday girl. Not surprised they know each other, honestly. Most of us went to the same primary school and stayed connected through the years. Then he made his way over to us, smiling like nothing happened. He went straight to my BF and extended his hand. I'm Mark, you remember me, right? And you must be the BF, he says. My BF shook his hand, being polite, of course. He then told him in his most annoying voice, "Can I borrow her for a sec? I just want to talk." I immediately shut him down and told him to leave us alone. He didn't. He persisted for a full minute, and when my boyfriend told him to leave, he just went on and tried to take my hand by force. My BF, being already annoyed by the whole issue, slaps the arrogance out of him. He tries to fight back, but my BF punches him in his face. The security people were called and took him out shouting, and we left after explaining the whole thing to the birthday girl. My boyfriend dropped me off at home, and he left immediately. The next day, that is Saturday, a video was sent to me. A video of Mark being taken away by the security and people laughing. I guess somebody was filming. The person who sent it is one of Mark's ex-girlfriends. Her message was, "Served him right." So yeah, that's where we are now. It has been quiet since yesterday, but knowing Mark, he'll definitely pull something on my BF. My BF is not one to resort to violence, but Mark had it coming, honestly. If it wasn't him, someone would have done it. I tried to make it short, but it's still very long. I'm sorry for that. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. And to those I couldn't respond to on my previous post, I truly appreciate your comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Bro, you literally set boundaries, and he refused to respect them. Your BF protecting you is normal. OP, thank you. He'll definitely appreciate this. He's still sad about me witnessing that side of him, but I've assured him that I'm not bothered. Mark crossed so many lines. Commenter 2. Security came, and if they thought your BF was a problem at all, they'd have hauled him off right alongside Mark. They knew who the AITA was even though they are complete strangers to you. Your BF shouldn't be sad that you had to witness that side of him, any more than he should be sad for you to see him take a MSHT. He just did what he had to do in an unfortunate situation. OP, I'll show this comment to him. And you're right on the security part. Mark wasn't even invited. The birthday girl was just being polite when he showed up after Ben told him I was there. Ben needs to grow a spine and stop being a puppet. Commenter 3. Following for more updates. This guy is crazy. He must have thought you didn't tell your boyfriend when he thought he could borrow you. And it just shows that he has zero respect for women by thinking he could grab you and make you go with him. He needs to look at himself and take your previous words to heart and maybe get some therapy. OP, honestly, I wish he could get some therapy too. Mark is doing too much. I wouldn't be surprised if more people start distancing themselves from him. In a place where everyone knows almost everyone, people want to avoid being dragged into drama. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.